Hello, welcome. Welcome to this first video of this new series of videos that I'm going to create about relationships. So today we're going to talk about what happens for a relationship to go wrong. So one of the main sources of pain and suffering for humans has to do with relationships. When I don't feel important to you, when I feel that no matter what I do, it's never going to be good enough for you, when I feel invisible for you, when I feel rejected, when I feel abandoned by you, I feel tremendous pain. So as humans, we are wired to connect. So think about it. A baby needs connection. It needs others to take care of because otherwise the baby dies. So in our brain, it's part of our system. We need to connect with others. When we don't connect with others, our system goes to protection mode immediately, and we enter a state of distress because this is danger for us. So what happens for human beings? How do we respond when we feel not connected with that person that is so important to me? There are different types of responses that we have. So, and I'm sure you've heard of the fight and flight response, right? So what happens is that when we feel that we are disconnected, that we're not important for that other person, that we're invisible for that other person, when we feel rejected, we automatically go to that place of survival, right? And some of us tend to fight, and some of us tend to fly. So we either withdraw and shut down, I don't want to talk about it. This is not the time. Or we either go at it and we try, we have to fix it now. Tell me, why didn't you do this? You never do that. Why didn't you pay attention to me? Basically, right? So how we respond and how we respond also changes in time. So there's a way that we tend to respond naturally. That comes with your personal makeup. So some people naturally tend to withdraw and some people naturally tend to go more. But sometimes, withdrawers, for example, might get withdrawing might get fed up and eventually, explode or start going after. So those types of responses can change with time, depending on the dynamic of the relationship. Sometimes those that constantly are going after, talk to me, let's fix this, we need to talk about it now, right? They get tired of it and then they shut down and withdraw. So it is not one way throughout the relationship, but there is one way that's kind of your preferred way of responding under distress. So however each response will create different types of cycles. So we can describe basically three, right? So the most common one is when one withdraws and shuts down, right? And the other one goes after. And this is what happens, right? The more this one goes after this one, the more this one shuts down. And the more this one shuts down, the more this one goes after, right? So the more this one shuts down, the more this one feels not important and goes after. This one, usually the one that shuts down, feels criticized and judged. And it doesn't matter what I say to you, you won't be happy with it. So I won't say anything. And don't push me because I don't want to fight with you, right? So the other person feels, oh my goodness, you don't care. I'm telling you, I'm not important to you and you don't listen to me and you never listen to me. And the other one is, oh my goodness, no, I can't say anything because it won't be enough for you. So the more you do this, the more you do this, the more you do this, the more you do this. It doesn't matter where you start. The thing is that cycles are circles, and these circles go round and round and round. And this is the thing with these cycles. They become the relationship eventually. They start with something very little, and you might not realize it's there, but eventually it becomes really, really big, and anything little takes you to that cycle. So that's the most common one. But there's other two cycles that can also be created, right? So for example, when both withdraw, right? So there you have a couple that never fights. You know, we never fight. We don't argue, right? Does that mean that I'm always, feel connected with you? Not necessarily. But I shut down and I keep it inside. I keep my sadness, my hurt, my anger, my resentment perhaps, but I keep it to myself, and I'll do the same thing. And what happens when both withdraw? The relationship starts going this way. You start drifting apart more and more, very silently. But you end up feeling very lonely and very disconnected and unable to look at each other and find a place of connection. It's a quiet one, but it still feels very lonely, and it hurts, and you suffer. The third type of cycle that can be created would be both explosive, right? So when both tend to go at each other, and those relationships are extremely explosive. There's a lot of anger, and usually when that happens, right, is this tremendous, intense reaction, and usually it's like the explosion. Sometimes it could lead to, becoming physically violent, or it can lead to, okay, can't do this, and then both shut down, and many times, they stop talking for days, right? So the thing with this cycle, as I was saying, it starts small, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and any little thing can trigger it. And that's why, we go to our cycles of things that are like, really? Did we really fight over the dishes? Right? The key, it's not about the dishes. It's about the meaning that has to you. So if I am feeling that I am not important to you, right? And that is my belief about you. When you do something that will touch that idea that I have of you, right? I'm not important to you. So you not placing the dishes in the way that I've told you to place the dishes means you don't pay attention to me. You don't listen to what I'm saying. And that hurts me. But it's not the dishes. It's the fact that I feel that you don't pay attention to me. And there's a story to that. Of course, there's an experience that has led you to feel this way. It's not that you just make this up, right? There is a series of experiences. It starts with one, but there's many, right, that have led you to believe and to feel, I'm not important to you. And then the other person, right, either feels not important as well, or feels, you always criticize me, right? I can't do anything right. So what happens when we're stuck in that cycle is that we can predict what the other person will say. It is that, it has happened so much over anything, right? Because then the content doesn't matter anymore. It's about that dynamic, right? And that's what's key about it. It's important to recognize, what about this, right? What is this telling me? And what about me in all of this? I really like the idea of understanding these negative interactions as cycles. The reason that I like it is because when we are stuck in that place, we see things in a linear way. And by linear, I mean cause and effect, right? Where you and your behavior and your response is the cause for my response, right? Which is, of course, makes complete sense to me, right? But the thing is that if two people are looking at each other to find the problem and the solution for the problem, then we will never, ever agree on anything. And we will just fight, and the cycle will become bigger and bigger, stronger and stronger, till it can become everything that we see in the relationship. It kind of overcomes the relationship. So if we don't pay attention to the cycle, it might lead to the end of a relationship because there will be too much pain. There will be too much resentment. There will be too many things. And sometimes it is a little too late to heal. So it's really important to recognize what your cycle is, to recognize what your part in that cycle is, right? And how it is that we both do what we do to create and to make this cycle bigger and worse. And you're both reacting to each other. So one reaction, right, which can be withdrawal or go, creates the other reaction, which can be withdrawal or going after, right? So it's one reaction that creates another reaction that creates reaction. So we are just reacting. And when we react, we cannot communicate. It's our protective part that is having a relationship. Our guards, like I like to call them, they're relating with each other. That's not us. And our guards, that protective part of you, is painful because what it shows is either anger, frustration, or nothing. And we cannot connect with anger, and we cannot connect with nothing. And when we perceive anger towards us or nothing, we immediately go to our protective mode and we show the same. So it doesn't lead to anything good. So, how do you stop your cycle? We will talk about this next week. This week, what I would like for you to do is to pay attention to your cycle. Recognize what it is that you do. Recognize what it is that your partner do. And before I go, I just want to tell you something that's really important. Really important. We do what we do. You do what you do for two reasons. You do what you do to protect yourself because you are feeling hurt. But you also do what you do to protect the relationship. And this is very important. Because if you did not care, you would not put so much energy to try to protect the relationship. The person that's withdrawing is trying to protect the relationship from getting worse. It's trying to avoid conflict. I don't want to fight. Let's not make this worse. The person that goes after is looking for connection. We need to connect. It's knocking the door. The thing with the cycle is that what you're both doing to protect the relationship is actually moving you apart. So it's really important to recognize your cycle and to know what is really happening inside of you and to learn how to communicate that. So you can create a cycle that instead of moving you against and further away, it can actually bring you closer and closer together. We will talk about this and much more next week. Until then,